seriously, I had an overall sense of well-being. It's called end phenomena, but it is the overall sense of well-being. I had high energy, stamina, and performance. My brain fog lifted, and I didn't even realize I had brain fog until it just went away.
Hello and welcome back, my fellow Igniters. I've got a great show for you today. If you listen to any of my other podcasts, the Elevate podcast, I had this gentleman on talking about the health benefits of what he does for the first responders and how detoxification can really enhance everything that you're doing in your life. But on this episode, I'm going to have Dan talk about his actual entrepreneurial path from all the way back in the days of IT to now he's helping people and helping everyone's health, and how that came about in a very interesting story about a very big event that we all know, and it was very heartbreaking for us, of how this detoxification program got started from his father. I cannot wait for you all to hear this and mainly hear his entrepreneurial path. And then a very special thing at the end where Dan has actually developed a program where people out there, if they're looking to be an entrepreneur and build their own business, he has a special program that he's going to be able to share with you if you're in that health space and want to help and well-being or add to your well-being program. Dan has something special to share with you. So before I say hello to him, just don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and we'll get right to it. Dan, nice to see you again. Welcome back. To a new podcast. Welcome back to a different podcast. I created this podcast 3 weeks ago because I have another passion, not just healthcare and mental health wellness for first responders, but I have a passion to help people grow their entrepreneurial business. So I bring on entrepreneurs and let them talk about their path, because there's always little nuggets that entrepreneurs share with one another that may help someone. So Dan, tell us about how you got started in general, like what you did before this, and a little bit about yourself, and how you how you came to be what you're doing today.
Well, I'm honored and privileged to be on this show. Thank you, Kyle. And I'll tell everybody that my background is with the computer industry, which was not even IT. So you use the word IT, and I was there before that was even a thing. In fact, I was there before Windows was even a thing. But my background in the computer world goes back to the high school era in 1979, and the computer lab and all that fun stuff. Then we got an Apple II Plus. But the thing is that in 1985, my father was looking for a platform that could manage his occupational medicine practice. And it needed to have at least 4 terminals so that they could, have many people working on it. But, there was no networks back then. So it was a multi-user system that had terminals and things like that. And this platform was something that I had actually assembled the computer hardware, the operating system, and the medical practice management system with the billing and all that. And I was the only one who'd ever put those 3 things together. So instead of going out and selling this to the other doctors like the computer company I was working for wanted me to do, I wound up installing it at my dad's practice, and it was obvious that these people had no idea. No idea. They'd never touched a computer. So I wound up having to go to work for them. So I wound up becoming the IT guy, even though that wasn't a thing yet. But I wound up also becoming one of their patients going through this detox program that I now do today. So that was basically terms of my employment was I had to go through this detox program. And I've actually run my business, my computer business, through his practice. While I was working for him, I was actually doing computer service and support as an independent guy. But then I started up a computer service and repair company called ACT, or Absolute Computer Technologies. And we wound up growing that business quite a bit. And then I wound up wanting to get more into the .com era. So that was the next step. And we formed Successful System Solutions, also known as Botany, Inc., which is be open to new ideas. And so we wound up doing a lot of really interesting projects through that .com era. Some of them actually are probably still working today. But the thing is that I was really not happy in the IT world. It was something that was service oriented, which I am. That's me. I'm a service guy. But the IT world was absolutely just unfulfilling. So what I do today, as you know, is far more fulfilling.
Oh, I bet. And you're helping people, and that's just fulfilling in many ways. You're fulfilling your heart by being of service. You're fulfilling their families' wishes by extending their life and whatnot with your system. Real quick, I'm not sure where you want to go from here. When you want to talk about, a little bit about the detoxification stuff, or do you want to? I think, because I know because on my other podcast, I know the history of what it means to you and what it means to this country. And when I say this country, he has a really good story of exactly what this system and what he is doing now helped thousands of people at ground zero. So you want to go there, I think, maybe?
Yeah, I think the fact that I was in the computer world as an entrepreneur is an important start. But and in fact, I highly recommend people become their own boss, because you really have a lot more ability to live the kind of lifestyle you really want. And I found that being in the IT world, it was really a job, And
right.
so what I do today is based on my father's work, which I think we should probably now just kind of discuss, because
Absolutely, 100%. Because it's amazing. I mean, it's such a great story. Yeah.
Yeah, my father has been involved with occupational medicine ever since he retired from the Air Force. So his background is working with employers who have employees or new hires that they want to have go through a physical or drug screen and things like that. So we were in occupational medicine, and what we started seeing were patients presenting with all kinds of chemical exposures, heavy metal exposures, and things like that from the workplace. And unfortunately, to this day, even, there's nothing in the medical literature on how to detox any chemicals. So there's chelation for heavy metals. That's been around for a long time. That's where they inject you with a chemical to bond with or chelate metals. And that's only, certain heavy metals. But the thing is that they, to this day, do not have anything to offer for chemical exposures, or for that matter, mold mycotoxins, because we can deal with that as well. But the thing is that back in those days, he was really not able to do much. But he came across a program that offers niacin, exercise, and sauna that was originated for drug addiction rehab. Now, this program was, this is something that got my dad's attention, because saunas, we've known about the health benefits of saunas since like 1973 at least. I mean, we lived in Europe for 6 years for the military, and so we traveled a lot around the Scandinavian countries and things like that, and we saw how important saunas were. I mean, it's part of their lifestyle for that matter. But the thing is that the word sauna had that meaning to him because he understood there's health benefits. And in fact, I've had a sauna in one of our houses since 1973. So basically, when I was 10 years old, I was already using dry saunas. But the thing is that he had basically gotten this brochure that said niacin, exercise, and sauna for drug addiction rehab. So he wound up checking that out and finding out that this was actually a very interesting and valid protocol, but it wasn't something that had ever been used for occupational medicine. So his purpose then was to see if this would be something that would be of value to his occupational medicine practice. And he met with these folks, and they wound up, working together, and he started sending patients to them. And at this point, he was getting good results, and he thought maybe that it just could use a little tweaking and become, even better. So over the course of about 30 years, he was actually working with this other group that was basically doing drug addiction rehab, and he was needing it for his occupational practice. So they teamed up as a company called HealthMed, and they started to work together. In fact, the company that he was talking to came to his building. They actually moved into his building. So we had the detox center on one side of the hall, and we had the occupational medicine practice on the other side of the hall. And so essentially we were, working great with these programs. And I went through it in 1986, and it was the most life-changing thing I'd ever gone through. And so what happened was that the problem, I should say, is that it was 4.5 to 5 hours a day. A lot of that time was in a dry sauna. And so it was kind of grueling, plus the fact that you'd go maybe 21 to 30 days straight through the program. And I frankly did do 33 days. It was more important for me to go through for a longer period, but I went through it. And what I hit at the end of it, what I hit on the 33rd day was an amazing transformation, because seriously, I had an overall sense of well-being. It's called N phenomena, but it is the overall sense of well-being. I had high energy, stamina, and performance. My brain fog lifted, and I didn't even realize I had brain fog until it just went away. And then my IQ, which they used to score before and after points, before the detox and after, my IQ actually reclaimed 10 points. And then on top of that, my color vision, my sense of smell, my sense of taste all improved. They were more vivid. And then also my dreams became more vivid, and I remember them better. And at 60 years old, I still have all of that going for me. And in fact, I can't even find any inflammation in my body. So.
Wow, that's incredible. There's so many things that cause inflammation nowadays. I mean, even the food that we eat, there's so much stuff in there that cause that, and it's bad. It's bad, so.
Very much so. So anyway, in fact, I wrote the first database program for tracking their results. And I wound up really thinking this program was going to be something that would go real mainstream. However, it really didn't. And I think it was because, there's several factors, but the main one was 4.5 to 5 hours a day. And something needed to be done about that. Now, I mentioned earlier, my father is he was in the military, and he was a research physician. So he was actually a flying physician doing in-flight medical research for both the United States Air Force and the Royal Air Force. So he had a lot of experience in biological and chemical defense systems. And so his interest was really high with trying to find a way to make this program even better. And so we wound up in 2014, started the Health Med deal had, I think, fallen apart in 2013. They basically split. But in 2014, we started to really look at this as a way of really helping other people outside of occupational medicine, because it was so, we had these blinders on.
Right,
we were looking at it from drug addiction rehab, as well as from, acute toxicities from workplace injuries, things like that. So we really wanted to see if we could bring this to the mainstream. And what I did was I spent about 4 years, and this was actually, to make a long story short, this was prompted after my wife had a surgery that wound up actually causing more harm than good. And so she wound up becoming pretty disabled. And what we found after the fact is if we had just really changed our diet, stopping, the GMO, the chemically toxic poisons, the convenience fast foods and all that stuff. So if we changed that and also detoxed her body, then she would not be where she is today. So that was the impetus for me to really start to want to develop this for the public, because once we realized our mistake, I wanted to make sure that we didn't, or others would not make the same mistakes we did. So anyway, I did about 4 years of research to find out what the public was facing. And as far as like mercury toxicity from amalgam fillings, or let's say gadolinium toxicity from MRIs, which is now a huge thing. Most even radiologists don't realize that the gadolinium that they inject as a contrast dye is actually very toxic, and it does store in the body. Wow. So anyway, there's those kinds of things that we were looking into as, how can we detox the body of these things? And oh my gosh, have we seen so many different things that we've been able to detox. And it's amazing how many non-communicable and non-genetic diseases that have no known etiology that we've been able to reverse. And it's an amazing program. And the way it works has very scientific validation. In fact, there's over 15 studies published that people can find on PubMed. Actually, it'd be better if they just go to my website, if I may, getdetoxinated.com/studies. And you can find those studies, and including some presentations that my father made to places like the WHO, the CDC, the EPA, and several others. But there's many different lectures and presentations and studies that you can find there. But the thing is that the program has been so validated. And in fact, the California Medical Board even challenged him for putting this unorthodox program into his medical practice. So he wound up supplying or providing them with a 50-page response letter that explained the program. And they said, carry on. And then the state of California became his largest client.
Well, but then too, what did he? Just to get back to what your dad did for this country, not just his service, but talk about New York for a second.
The big project.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big project that they wound up doing after 9/11, the cleanup efforts at Ground Zero caused a lot of damage with the first responders. You just consider the fact that they're out there, a lot of them without their proper personal protective equipment, the respirators or what have you. And if they did even have them, sometimes they didn't even have the right filters for them. So
Right.
these folks were out there trying to clean up the area, and they were inhaling a lot of this stuff. Plus, every time they go to move any debris, there'd be a new dust cloud that lifted up. So they were absorbing that through their skin. So the project that wound up happening is called the New York Rescue Workers Detoxification Project, and it ran from 2002 to 2007. It ultimately treated over 5,000 of these first responders, volunteers, and other civilians that were involved with the problems of the cloud as well as the cleanup efforts. So the program, in fact, all of those folks went through it through grants and donations, so nobody had to pay to go through it. But in fact, there's an interesting person that went through the program that we've known about, but she kept in touch with about 2,200 of these people that went through the program.
Okay.
And what she found is that the cohort that went through the program that she's in touch with, up until I think the last time I spoke with her about this was maybe 2 years ago, but at that point, only 3 people had passed away. And most of that was, I think all of them were either from old age or just, natural causes.
Trauma
Exactly. So the ones that did not go through the program have been passing away 1.2 per day since the time of the cleanup.
Oh my gosh.
So it's an amazing.
Wow. So getting those bad things out, that made a big difference. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And I knew that from our other podcasts, and I just wanted this listening group to understand, what you've done and what you've done for what your dad did for the country, and now you're taking on his legacy, and then now you're even doing something even more. So this is where I want to get into back to that that entrepreneurial path, about what you're doing inside of your entrepreneurial path to help other entrepreneurs that may be interested in adding this to their wellness program, what you're doing for them. So when it comes to what you're doing on that path, explain the program that you put together and what we'll put in the link below. And because you're listening to the Ignition podcast, we're doing a 10% off discount for creating your own business through this detoxification program that Dan has put together. And you'll be able to go to a website and read all about it and sink your teeth into it. And I want to hear more. Him and I spoke a couple of weeks ago about it, but it was just general stuff. So I'm really interested of where it's grown from there. I know that it was at its impetus when we talked at the beginning of everything. So where's it grown? What is it? What is the program? And share that with our listeners, and maybe hopefully someone will take advantage of the coupon and become your next detoxification coach.
Love to. So firstly, I did write the book about the program. It's called Sauna Detoxification Using Niacin, Following the Recommended Protocol of Dr. David E. Root. Now, I will tell any entrepreneur out there, if you have something that you can write a book about, that's the thing you need to do. It's truly the best thing I have done to get my business off the ground, because normally I would have been delivering this program in a center with saunas and having people come to me. I wound up, because of because of COVID and the lockdowns, not being able to see as many patients as we would have liked. So I wound up becoming a home-based business, working with people, coaching them through the program based on my book. Now, by the way, the sauna detoxification using niacin is kind of the generic way of saying it, but we trademarked the term detoxination, and I am a detoxinician. So detoxination is actually a concatenation of the word detoxification and decontamination. So that's where that comes from, and it is trademarked. But as a detoxinician, I am able to, work with clients and or patients, if you will. And so what I wanted to do was to create a training program to teach others to do what I do. And it's important to understand that it's not just simply taking niacin and doing some exercise and jumping in the sauna. In fact, it's very important to understand that there are actual pharmacokinetics of niacin that need to be understood, like the flush. Most people understand the flush, but there's a secondary effect that niacin causes that actually liberates these fat stored toxins from the fat cells. And then the flush mobilizes those to the dermal regions. So just know that it's not about taking niacin and jumping into a sauna. There's a lot more. You also have to,
Right.
keep up with electrolytes and fluids, and there's a lot more moving parts to this. But you also need to understand how to work with patients who are presenting with certain conditions. And like I said, if they are conditions of unknown etiology and they're non-genetic, they're more than likely going to be related to environmental toxicants. So there's different things, and I've already mentioned gadolinium toxicity. Now, people who've been poisoned by gadolinium need to be handled a special way, because gadolinium has several things that it does to the body. It's a calcium channel blocker, just for an example. And so we need to understand how to work with people like that. Then there's people with multiple chemical sensitivities. So MCS is a big problem where the body has been overwhelmed by toxic exposures. And so it is now shutting down in ways that are very annoying to the individual and sometimes their family and loved ones or friends even. But the thing is that you need to understand how to deliver the protocol for these types of conditions to these folks. So what I've done is I've produced the training program, and it is available, as we already mentioned, through the link that is going to be in the description. So, and with that link, there will be a 10% discount. But the program
what kind of
is
people are you looking for? Yeah, what kind of people are you looking for inside of that? If someone's listening to this, is that somebody from a healthcare background or a wellness background, or anybody that may be interested in just exploring something new to get on a call with you to see if it's a fit? Like who are you looking for when it comes to those individuals?
Excellent question. So I do currently work with a lot of holistic and, the functional and the integrative medical practitioners. I even have doctors who are in the training program. But individuals can literally learn how to do this. I have written the program so individuals who are like health enthusiasts could actually learn how to do this. And in fact, if you recall, I come from the IT world. So my background is not in medicine. And it actually is 100% holistic. There's no reason that a person needs to have any kind of medical background, but it is preferred to incorporate this program into other practices that are already in the holistic space, because you'll be able to actually offer other services while you're there. There's other modalities that work synergistically with this program. So there, and in fact, if you would, if I may, this program everybody should do as the starting point before doing anything else if they're trying to recover from some kind of condition, because environmental toxicants are the barrier to good health. In fact, it's mitochondrial dysfunction that is the problem with environmental toxicants that get into the body. In fact, oxidative stress, the whole ability for the body to produce ATP energy. And also, there's these endocrine disruptors that are also, or there are also xenoestrogens that can mimic hormones. And in fact, a lot of thyroid conditions can be, pointed right back to these environmental toxicants, like fluoride, BPAs, phthalates, things like that. So the thing is that the people that can take this program and run with it are literally just about anybody who's interested in helping others. You really need to have a motivation to help others. This is something that a lot of holistic practitioners are all about, because the current medical paradigm that we live through right now is more profit driven, and so we are not seeing the kinds of therapies or results that we're getting from the conventional medicine. So essentially, people who have a background in any kind of healthcare are ideal, but people who are looking for a career change. In fact, I work with a lot of veterans and a lot of first responders, some of them who've been disabled, but they by the working conditions, and they're prime candidates for this as well, because there's actually a remote detox coaching element to this whole program. So people can learn how to do it, get experience, and then become remote detox coaches like myself.
Yeah. And that's basically what the link does, is it takes them to a landing page that gets them into a conversation with you to see what the program's all about, and then they can see if it's right for them. Is that what that link does?
Yes.
And then, yeah, through that link, you get a 10% discount if you decide to move forward with a new career and becoming an entrepreneur and being able to spread this around. I know through talking with him the first time is that, right now he does most of his practice very locally out there in California, where he's wanting to try to establish, I think you said, over 200 sites around the country. So he's looking for anybody and everybody around the country, let alone maybe the world. I'm sure he does most of his coaching through Zoom links of how I talked to him about it. So you can go through his course, learn about it, and then establish your own detoxination program in your local community. So it's a great opportunity for you to become an entrepreneur and use that health and well-being for it. And it's a great service what Daniel's providing, and how he got to where he is through his father's legacy, and continuing that legacy and helping people really understand the whole concept of the toxins that we do intake. Like I said, Dan and I have had multiple conversations, even offline, not inside of podcasting, and he's made me a true believer and make me second guess of what I put in my body and other things that I'm around. So I'm in middle of reading his book and getting that taken care of. So I know that Dan and I are going to have a long lasting relationship, and maybe even get myself a sauna someday, put in my house and get through this stuff. So Dan, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Ignition Path podcast to share your entrepreneurial path and how you're actually helping other possible entrepreneurs extend their branches and extend their ability to help others. And I think that's great. This is the first guest that I've had on that has an actual program. I think, don't get me wrong, I believe others will have programs, but he has an actual program that's proven that he becomes your coach and becomes your mentor in creating your own business wrapped around detoxination. So Dan, thanks so much for coming on. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. If you're listening to this and it's, maybe you're a loved one and you hear something, you're like, oh, my son or daughter, they run a wellness program. Send them this video and let them know about Dan's program and whatnot. Dan, you have anything else you want to say?
Well, even if you have a sauna center or spa, this is a great way to add to that. So just another way to look at it. But because like I said, you do not have to have any kind of medical background. But anyway, thank you, Kyle. This has been a pleasure and always fun to talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Dan. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Ignition Path, fueling the entrepreneurial fire.